All right, my friends, welcome to episode 1 of this arc of the RPG backlog. It is Final Fantasy II. We have played a little bit, and we are here to talk all about it. It is me, Prof Plays Games, and over there is Travis, and there's Tom. You can't see them, but I swear to God, they're here with me.
Yeah, maybe.
Ruined the bit. We could have just been quiet for a few minutes, and that would have
5-minute silence.
Yeah, as much as he complains about closing it and us not saying anything, I wasn't going to deal with that because I don't want to go off of like a 20-minute tirade of him and be like, why don't you guys say something?
And it'd be me shouting and screaming and end up with me crying and curled up.
Well, okay, now can we redo this to where we can get you in a crying state? Because I didn't know you were going to go to crying.
That's contact, man.
Always go to crying. Always go to 11. Well, yeah, Final Fantasy II. Speaking of crying, I want to hear some of your all experiences with Final Fantasy II. Well, let's start with just in general, overall impressions of the first couple hours.
I'll let Tom, you go for it first, man.
I'll start because I had this was relaxing. This was pleasant. I don't want to say easy, but yeah, we kind of, and maybe we'll get into this. I don't know. I haven't touched the boost yet. I felt like this was a really leisurely. Took me about 3 hours to move to the point that we said we were going to, which I guess was once you get done in everybody's favorite place to pronounce, Bafsk. And yeah, I thought it was nice. I definitely did a double take. So this is my little anecdote. I'm looking at my screenshots here. Like when the game first opens, or when you first get control of the characters, you get like rescued by something. Yeah, that's right. They jump you into that little faux battle, and you get your ass kicked. And then at some point, there's one of your. It's Guy, I guess. He has this like real Englishy like lines of dialogue. Did you guys pick up on this?
I screenshotted a couple that I was like, well, that's a weird typo.
Princess of Flynn, save us, but Leon not here.
Leon not here, exactly.
Wait, what is this? And I don't know if you guys remember this line from Final Fantasy VII, but like, what is it? These guys is sick or something. This guy are sick. I can't remember what it is, but there's kind of a famous one from that it was like, man, that's a pretty big one, like line of dialogue that everyone will see at the very beginning of the game. It's like, that's kind of a screw up for the translation. And I think it's on purpose, but
because I didn't know.
I think this guy is he's like a simpleton, or I mean, because his name is just Guy. They didn't feel like giving him characterization. I don't know if the story is there, but it has to be on purpose.
Yeah, I took it as, like the traditional like Mongo good type thing, right?
Yeah.
That's how I didn't think it was a typo. I took it as he was just kind of, what is that story where there's like the big dude that's really like simple and talks.
You're thinking of either Flowers for Algernon or of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Lenny and George?
Yeah. That now that you think about it, actually, who I was actually picturing was, the guy, the movie, the Stephen King book, The Green Mile.
Oh, okay, yeah, that works too.
Right, that I was picturing that. Actually, wasn't his name Lenny in that or something like that? I can't remember. But yeah, that's what I was picturing when I read it. I wasn't thinking that they screwed up on the translation. But
that's interesting. I didn't catch it a second time, only that one time. So I thought, well, that's a weird typo.
He hasn't spoken since then.
Yeah, that was the only time he spoke.
And that's what made it weird, is because it was like, you're sort of dumped into this, and it's one of the, if not the first line of dialogue you have, and it's like, wait,
it is very close. You come out after you're like saved, basically, and they're like, oh, you're alive. Leon, not here.
Anyway, I did a double take, and so that was like that was the extent of my bumpy entry into this game, was being confused by a couple of lines of text. Yeah. From there on out, I thought it was pretty okay. The beginning stuff, you're just sort of walking around and buying things, and I want to talk about some mechanics stuff later, as far as the leveling mechanic or lack thereof. We got to talk about that one, but that maybe can wait for a minute.
Yeah, real quick before we dig into more impressions, we did the first section, which was Altair, Gatreya, Finn, Palum, Poft, whatever. Poft. and then Salamand, Cement Falls, which was the first dungeon, and then getting the Mithril, and then off to Bafsk and the cave. So that's where we are for this podcast, dear listeners. I felt the same way as Tom. I didn't play the boosts for the first probably hour and a half because I kind of wanted to see what the game offered. And I wasn't sure about the boosts because, as we talked about last time, I think Travis dug it up, that if you overlevel your weapons or your magic too much, then it starts to get really hard. I didn't want to do that early, if I understood that from last week correctly. So I just left it. And I found it quite relaxing as well. I think I put it in our Discord. I was like, this is something about these old school JRPGs is just meditative. And I know we talked about it a little bit with Travis last week about grinding, but I felt it in this one. It felt like a much smoother onboarding than Final Fantasy 1 was, where you go
much smoother. I mean, this was leisurely, right? It was casual. You just kind of push the buttons and you just sort of wander around and everything's fine.
Well, I thought the story was interesting too, where you're basically set up in the Wild Rose Rebellion against the Emperor, who's bringing demons from hell and shit. So it's kind of a cool start. But I will pause there and move to Travis. What are your overall thoughts after a couple hours of this?
So this is what I'm finding hilarious to me, right? You guys this was so much easier. Well, okay. Just pushing buttons and everything else. I'm like, but that's all Final Fantasy 1 was for me as well. So to me, I'm not understanding that. I don't know. Maybe.
What I mean by that is that I just did what I thought I was supposed to do, and I never found myself. All right, well, so there's a notable exception, but as long as you're staying on the main plot, and I guess this is specifically with regards to grinding and leveling and stuff. All the guys I had to fight simply to get to the next place that I knew I was supposed to go, that was more than enough to have me leveled and comfortably beat everything that I encountered.
Okay. That computes, because to me, I'm sitting there going, wait, that Final Fantasy 1 for me was just simple, turn mine off, push buttons, go, but then I do my side grinding and shit. So my overall thoughts. I enjoy the game for the most part. It has some quirks, and I don't know if I want to get into this now or we want to wait till we get into the story. You tell me, Larry, because
if you're talking about the password system, that might be in the mechanic thing.
Okay, so let's go to this. So when I started off, I was like, okay, the leveling's kind of weird, but I'm okay with it. I don't mind it. But then I literally have this note when the keyword system or password system, whatever you want to call it. I'm probably going to call it keyword system because it looks like a keyword to me since they highlight it. And you get introduced to that within the first 5 minutes of the game.
Wild Rose is the first one.
Yeah. Right. So I learned it, and I literally put the note on here. My second note after leveling is odd but enjoyable. My second note is keyword system is quaint but could become annoying. That oh my god, the keyword system pissed me off so hard within the first 2 hours. Literally it pissed me off. I'm running through the game, doing all my things, following everything, and then this goes to the story part a little bit where we're towards the end of it, where you're supposed to get on the stupid big airship, and I can't get past the dude.
You're supposed to get
and I'm like, why can't I get past this night? What the fuck? I do the Wild Rose thing. He's like, yeah, sweet, you're one of us. Sweet, move, motherfucker. That's what I was thinking. Move, and he won't move. And then this is where all hell breaks loose. I can't fly back from whatever this is, Bafsk, back to what was the other one? Poft. I think that's where Sid was.
Where Sid was, I think
no,
so too.
Altair.
He was in Altair? Altair was the beginning.
Altair's the beginning? Poft. No, it's Poft. Okay. Yeah. So I was in Bafsk. I'm like, but there's no way to get back to Poft because you can't take an airship at this point except to walk. So I walk back to Poft. Talk to everyone. Take the airship back to Bafsk. Motherfucker still won't move. Walk back to Poft. Okay, I can't talk to everyone. All right, F it. I'm going to fly back to Altair. Fly back to Altair, the very first city. Start talking to everyone. realize that the dumb little princess mentions the name of the fucking airship.
Yep.
And I didn't learn it. I learned it. Sweet. Oh. Now I'm in Altair. Go back to the second city, which was what? Gatria? No, that was, or Finn. Finn or Paloom, whatever.
The one that's overrun. Gatria is the second city to the north.
Yeah, so you go to the one where you took the ship over to Poft.
Yeah,
I get there.
Paloom, yeah.
I get there. Go to pay the little dude to where I take the ship. It's like, hey, the ship's not here. Motherfucker. Literally because I took Sid's flight back from Poft to Altair, the ship from the Paloom stayed in Poft.
Yeah, sure.
So now I have to walk my ass all the way up the freaking continent, around the mountains, back down into Poft, just to where I can get on a fucking ship to go back to Basque. But I'm like, at this point in time, I'm pissed. I'm like, fuck you, Poft. I ain't going to your ass. Walking my ass all the way back to Basque, just to tell the dumbass, hey, Wild Rose, hey, name of the stupid airship, move the F out of my way.
I will say that piece was confusing to me too. I went back to her just to make sure I exhausted everything of her dialogue, because you get the mithril a keyword or whatever, and then the conversation's done. You just would walk away.
Right.
You have to restart the conversation to then get Dreadnought. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
And then airship. Sorry, and then airship as well.
Yeah, and I was so pissed off at this point, like so incredibly pissed off. So my time came in by this led to the next issue that I had is the leveling system. Because I spent so much time doing all this crap, my magic, I don't know what your guys' magic is, but mine is at 4 or 5.
Oh, I'm gonna load mine up.
I've almost used no magic at this point.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I found, well, because, I mean, what are you guys using it for? Because I found one fire tome, and so one person has fire magic, but I haven't needed it hardly at all. And then there's like some cure and stuff like that, but you have the white mage dude that hangs with you for a long time. I was just using his stuff, and then supposedly he's going to peace out after this section. So
every city I go to, or every time I go searching all the shops, and I buy what I can.
Me too. I've leveled up fire, thunder, cure, teleport.
Where's their thunder? I missed that.
It's like in the very first. It's in Altair. You can buy fire, thunder, and blizzard all in Altair.
Oh, yeah, and blizzard too. Yep. So I'm leveling up the magic just to level it up. So that I'm at level 3 for my magic right now.
Well, so this is the problem I ran into, because when you fight the night guy later on, like I've gone through the entire freaking dungeon.
Yeah.
And because my magic spells are like 4 or 5, I've chunked in the ether to get back here at magic points is super fucking expensive.
Yeah.
By the time I got to him, I had like 4 or 5 magic points. And I'm like, okay, I cast my 1 fire spell. There goes 5 out of my 8. I can't cast another magic spell.
What do you mean 5 out of your 8? Of your MP?
Because I'd used all my MP throughout getting through the dungeon, trying to get through it. Because the fire, the blizzard, the lightning, you can target entire groups. Same thing with Cure. You can target everyone with it at once. So whenever I had large groups, I would use it to whittle it down much faster. Yeah. And so by the time I got to him, I had none. And guess what? This fool's been using magic the whole time. So Guy can't hit for shit. So when he hits so when he goes to do a melee to the knight's like, haha, fuck you, 0 points of damage.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I was worried about that, so I made sure for everybody to kind of evenly level them if they use magic, except for Furion, the main guy. He doesn't use magic at all, so he's just full sword.
So Furion, I have him as full swords, but he also has cure magic and a couple other one-offs, just because in a pinch I want him to be able to just... Oh, yeah. Sometimes one of those things I've always learned is you want cure on everyone, even the non-magic casters, because there's going to be times where you're like, oh shit, we're all about to die. I need to get a cure off. Everyone cure. Just hopefully one of you goes before it doesn't. But So yeah, that fight. I mean, it wasn't hard. It just was time consuming because he wasn't doing any damage to my guys, and I wasn't really doing any damage to him except for Furion chipping away at him. So it was kind of annoying.
Well, the main problem that I found, and it wasn't a big problem, but I was using magic just kind of level up as I went through, and I got to a point in the dungeon where you're fighting like the green slimes or whatever, and physical damage does nothing to them. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I got to use magic, and 2 of my 3 have no magic points left.
That's where you find the fire tome. So they were kind of setting you up there, right? That like basically there's a region of that dungeon, or at least it was for me, where the encounter rate for those green things is much, much higher.
It was really
and there's a room behind it where you get the fire tome. And it's like, I felt like that was the game sort of saying like, hey, you should use, here's an opportunity to use magic on these guys, and it worked and stuff. It's funny that was your experience with the sergeant at the end, because I realized pretty early on that it's like, oh, my dude's physical attacks, because I've been using almost with the exception of that fire spell, which I had just gotten, I've been using exclusively melee stuff the whole way through.
What's your melee level then? Like fucking 8, 9?
I wanted maybe 7, something like that.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I think so. This is when we talk about the mechanic thing later. I want to open up my file and check, but actually I have stinking echoes of wisdom in the Switch right now, so I'll check in a second. But yeah, it was. So I'm just like, hacking away on stuff, and it was going fine. And then that guy, a bunch of zeros pops up, so it's like, okay, all right. So then I use this freaking fire spell. It's the only thing that works, and so I think I think I had 10 MP or maybe 15, and it's like maybe you get 2. Maybe it was at level 2 at that point. I can't remember. But basically, I exhausted all my MP for the one spell that I had, and the guy was still there. And I was like, oh, man, this kind of sucks. But I did notice that when you get a critical, it'll register. So, like, your melees do 0, but if it's a critical, then they do hit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And so I just had everybody go. And I just hit the fast forward thing, and I was just like, well, if I die, I'll restart, but like, there's nothing else for me to do here.
They'll crit eventually.
And I was able to, after it was maybe like 5 rounds of people basically just flailing at this guy, but that eventually knocked off the last little bits of his health, and I was able to beat him, which was kind of satisfying.
That's interesting.
Okay, I was like looking at him like, what is so Furion's at 5 on swords right now. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. So
mine's at 6, Furion, because he only uses swords.
Same. Well, except my Furion like cures at 3, fires at 2, teleports at 1.
Nope.
But then like my white mage, or who I have Maria being the white mage, like her cure, protect, and blink are all at 4, shells at 3.
Yep.
And then Guy I have as my black mage essentially, so fire, thunder, and blizzard are all at 4, cures at 3.
Right. For Maria, who's my main healer, I have cure at 3, blizzard at almost 2, fire at almost 3, thunder at almost 2. I haven't used shell or fear or silence or life yet.
Well, life is a fun one because you really. Actually, I'm going to try and cast it on a person in the middle of it. I think you only let me
use it when they're dead, right?
That's what I thought. But the other thing that I started doing is, like, I literally would just. I got to the point there towards the end where I get to where there was a couple of the ones that I knew that I could one hit with Furion, and I would just put all my characters on defend and hit auto and just let them wail away on my characters to get their other defensive stats up. So
yeah, totally. Well, I ended up. I don't know if you guys did it too, but I ended up attacking my own characters.
No, I
raise their HP.
I didn't. I've let the other ones do it for me. I've let the mobs do it. So like Furion has like 590 hit points. Maria has 448. Guy has 880. I'm like, Jesus Christ, someone's been wailing away on his ass.
Well, my guy, whose name is Guy the Guy, he has 1,000 HP right now.
Jesus.
Yep, I focused on. So if I'm using 2 boosts. One's the HP, where it's the one that's like on or off, basically. That it levels up every once in a while. But then I've got a boost on Gil. Those are the only 2 boosts I have.
can you see? Oh, you guys are just in the magic menu to see where the spells are?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to go to status for weapons and magic menu to see what level your magic is.
How do you see what? Status is the weapon.
Status will tell you what your weapon or defensive skills are.
Okay. So Furion, I've got swords at 6, maces at 4. Maria's got knives at 3 and bow at 4.
Oh wow, you're using 2 weapons.
Well, it's because I dropped the knives pretty early on when I realized that, the bow was kind of bugging me because it was like, does this just suck? Like she doesn't do nearly the damage of my other characters. And then I moved her to the front row. Like you can move them to the front or the back. And I moved her to the front. It was doing the exact same, which is like, okay, that's frustrating on the one hand, but it's kind of nice. This is, at least I remember this from some of the other Final Fantasies I played, that ranged weapons, you can put the people in the back row and you don't take a penalty on the damage.
Exactly.
And so it's like, okay, she can be my caster and ranged attack person. So she's got the bow at 4. And then Guy he's my axe person. He's got axes at 5. I was working the javelin for a little while with him. That's at 3, but whatever. Yeah. And then Minwoo, he's got knives at 6. That's pretty cool too. But yeah, man, that was crazy. What you said, your guy has 1,000 hit points.
1,000 hit points. Yep.
Okay. So my HP for my dudes, what? Furion? That's it. Furion's got 206. Maria's got 174, and Guy has 328.
Oh wow,
dude!
Wow,
you might want to start attacking yourself.
Yeah, punching yourself in the face.
This is my point: is that this game has been a cakewalk for me so far.
Interesting. I mean, it has been for me too, but I thought it was because I just built my fucking tanks to not be able to die.
I haven't needed it at all. I just walk into a battle. I mash the auto thing. Everybody slices and dices, and I'm done. It's been crazy. The only thing that was remotely hard was that guy the sergeant at the end, and that's because I'm finding out that I've been ignoring tons of magic spells, which I just happened to not see in Altair, because they don't have them anywhere else. That's for sure. I've been pretty.
Yeah, they do.
No, they absolutely do.
No, they absolutely do.
Yep. I bought a ton of spells.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, they have spells in other places. There isn't attack magic anywhere else.
That might be true because it's fire, thunder, and blizzard, but the rest is like shell or teleport, cure, life. Yeah, that might be true.
I've got cure. I've got. That's what I mean. I've been buying all these things, but it's like what am I doing with this stuff? There's not. We've been over this before too. I'm mostly just looking for offensive stuff, and I occasionally play status effect games, but not often.
That's why I love doing the podcast after every section, where I feel like we each learn something new that we didn't realize, and then also learn how the other people play, and we're just like, really? Cool. Okay, if that works for you, awesome. Man, it's good though. It's fun.
What kind of what stuff do you guys like? Do you have I guess we all have mithril stuff at this point.
Yeah, when he built the mithril, I put the mithril, and I think I still have that on. I'll turn it back on and see.
I was saying mithril on Furion, my other 2, just a shield and the bronze cuirass, because those are the shields already do a lot of magic interference. The bronze cuirass or the bronze chest pieces have really low magic interference, so it kind of balances itself out.
Yeah, I've got the cuirass on as well.
I have silver cuirasses and all mithril weapons.
I didn't see silver anywhere.
I didn't either. Yeah, where's the silver come from?
I don't know. Where did I buy it? It's kind of a recent thing, so probably in either Bafsk or Hoft.
Yeah, I think I stopped looking at the armor shops because I feel like it was the same thing over and over again. So maybe I should have looked.
Let's see. Final Fantasy II Silver Cuirass is as good as mithril armor, but you can buy it much earlier if you take a detour for Bafsk. It's quite cheap. Don't pass up this armor piece for your mages. You'll find an extra one in the snow cavern, but it's cheap enough, blah, 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 blah.
Is that in the guide we're looking at?
No, this is a search that... let's see. Treasure containing... There's treasure chest. Yeah, I think you can just buy it in Bafsk.
Interesting. Okay, I need to go fuck around in Basque a little bit then.
Yeah, I didn't look in Basque because by the time I got there, I was just trying. By the time I got there, I was so pissed off that I just wanted out.
I've got mithril sword, longbow, and then I have an axe for Guy. So mithril just on Furion.
Because that's the other cool thing is that there's a mithril dealer in all of the weapon shops now. Right. After you activate it, that dude shows up, and I think he's everywhere.
That's right.
But different places have different stuff, is what I believe I recall.
Back to Minwu really fast. The way that this game works is you have 4 party members, but then Leon, who's the 4th one, doesn't make it out basically, or you'll find him later or whatever. He's not there. So you kind of rotate in a 4th party member, and I was worried how that would work. And it works in one way that I really like and one way that I don't. So the way that I really like is that when you rotate that 4th party member, and like you were saying earlier, Tom, you have access to like some crazy shit, like really cool spells early on that you would never have access to. Right. So you're able to do that crazy stuff. The thing that I don't like, and it's the leveling, we know how to level up the characters and their stats, but it still feels a bit random when the things occur. And sometimes that character would like get the final hit or would get the stat increases. And I'm like, God damn it. I need that for my characters because they're going to be with me the entire game and you're not. You're going to leave. So I would then just put that character to like defend most of the time and just let my guys do the smashing.
So from what I read, it's not who gets the final hit. It's the fact that if you get the most experience on the first action of that type each fight. So, for example, if you cast fire in the first, you'll get a certain amount of experience towards that one. If you cast it a second time, you get less for that second cast than you did for the first.
Oh, that's
so everything I read said to alternate between, especially with magic, it's like don't just keep casting fire over and over again in a fight. Go unless you're going after a specific weakness of the mobs, but to rotate through them so that you don't blow one way out and leave the others far behind. So what I was doing when I go into a fight, I would cast fire once, then thunder, then blizzard, and just keep rotating through those 3 until I hit something that was, and that's the same thing. But I agree with you. At one point in time, I was sitting going, I don't want him leveling up, so I would literally put his ass on defend and let my characters do the attacking with their weapons, so that he didn't take away from their ability to get experience.
Well, I'm looking forward to being horribly wrong about this, but on the off chance that I'm not, I'm going to put myself on a limb here and say that you're overthinking it. And this is my feeling. Final Fantasy II has enveloped me in the warm embrace of just have fun and don't worry about it too much. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to, because I just use this guy. He's in my party. I use him. He's going to leave. Fine. I don't need that stuff anymore. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to miss it because Final Fantasy II is going to take care of me. I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Now, the one thing that is going to happen is, and this is I read in our guide, I read ahead a little bit, that he will take your stuff. So you get your stuff off of him because I paid good money for those mithril knives. I want them back. I think that's kind of shitty that they don't just like dump all their hardware when they leave.
Exactly. Yeah.
But short of that, I think it's going to be okay if I can find some of those magic spells. This guy was stacked though, man.
With magic,
Is he? It must just be every white magic spell you can have.
Oh yeah,
that's what it looks like.
I don't know, but I literally have that in my note, like Mimu's stacked with spells, like all in caps.
Dude, you open it up early game, you're like, holy shit, there's like 15 spells here.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing,
like this is a really neat mechanic because I think that games too often get stuck in the gaminess of it. Does that make sense? It's like, well, you're early in the game, so you can't have powerful stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like this, I felt like this really did a lot for kind of the immersion factor too, because it's like, whoa, here's the kingdom's most powerful white wizard. He's like coming to help you with shit. And he shows up and he's awesome, right? I mean, he's not like OP or anything like that, but this is consistent with what this guy was sort of built up to be. And that was really satisfying that you do all of a sudden. It's like, oh, yeah, he can cure everybody. He can bring people back to, you don't cure life. The one is Isuna, which clears status effects and stuff. You don't have any of that stuff, even when it's useful, kind of thing. And so having him be able to chip in right away with that was really cool.
Yep.
I mean, the first thing I did was check to see what his gear was to where I could strip it from him if he had better stuff. Like that.
Taking your stuff, man.
He came with his staff, I think.
Yeah, I know. He didn't have anything good, unfortunately, but that's a trick that I'm trying to remember what other games, but back in the day, that was a pretty common thing to do where it's like, okay, we're going to give you somebody temporarily, and you look at their gear, and you're like, holy shit, you have amazing gear. I'm just going to steal it. And then I think they got to the point where they stopped letting you check gear to where you couldn't steal their stuff. Oh, right. Final Fantasy Tactics. That's what it was. Someone would join your party in Tactics, and it's like the first thing you did is you like look at their gear and be like, yeah, I'm just taking all this shit and giving you garbage.
Oh, man. Well, it's Final Fantasy VII, like Kate Sith, when before they leave or betray you or what the fuck ever, you can strip them. And if you don't, they just take their stuff. But in Rebirth, that's, I believe they made it so their stuff just stays with you when they leave. So
I don't know. The former is sort of, that's the real betrayal, is that he took your stuff.
Yes, exactly. Not only did he give the Keystone or whatever the fuck it was called, but he took his shit too. A fucking little cat. Anyway, that's a different Final Fantasy. You were talking about how this game will take care of you. I think the one place where it won't is what Travis already discovered. If you fucking don't pick up those keywords, you are going to get stuck somewhere. Yeah, it feels like you will.
Maybe that's been my good fortune, is because I noticed that early and was sort of like, it was obvious to me that it's like, kind of like you said, like this dialogue system is a little bit weird. And instead of like, that made me pay, I think, closer attention to it, because I noticed where it was like, okay, you've learned Wild Rose, and then you say Wild Rose to this lady, and then she says, it's like one text box is their response to it. And I'm like, well, what, normally how you like advance through dialogue, you just keep hitting A and you see the next and the next and the next. Mm-hmm. In this one, you constantly have that little menu at the bottom. It's like, are you going to talk to them? Do you want to do a keyword? Do you want to learn something, or do you want to leave? And that was weird. And you're used to just sort of like reeling through the dialogue, and here it's very terse, and you have, some opportunity to interact with them. And so anytime that, but then other NPCs don't have that. And so anytime I saw that little interact thing, I'm constantly checking that learn menu to make sure that I didn't miss anything, because it's super weird.
Yeah, the problem that I had, though, is not that I didn't see it, is that you have a conversation with someone, they tell you to go talk to somebody else, and then you do not realize that you need to go back and talk to that first one a second time.
Exactly.
Even though they basically said, hey, go talk to him and head on your merry little way. And that's what bit me in my ass here, is because it wasn't the fact that I haven't been learning, it's that she had more to say after I talked to her after I talked to Minwoo and he joined my group. I should have gone back and talked to her again, even though the way the story went off is like, okay, talk to him and go and leave, go.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, now I'm like, shit, now I'm going to go back and have to talk to everyone every freaking time just to ensure that they didn't have something more that I was supposed to learn from them, to where I don't waste 30 plus minutes. Because I guarantee you I waste at least 30 minutes doing all that shit.
Yep.
I don't know what this means, other than it is wild that you and I would have two completely different and like radically different experiences of this game, from missing like, a line and a half of dialogue or a single choice in the menu kind of thing. That's kind of strange.
Yeah.
But strange. It's just interesting, right? That this whole thing is sort of so delicate in that way. I wonder if that will continue to be the case, and next week will be my turn to miss something important and have a horrible time.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I hope not. I mean, like I said, overall, I still enjoy the game. That was just a massive point of frustration for me. And plus, I don't know how the rest of you are, but it feels like the random encounters in this happen all the time.
Often. It is really aggressive.
Okay, so it's not just me, because I was sitting there going, holy shit, man, this is getting to be a little bit excessive. Like, come on.
I was pretty committed to it, but to get out of the last place we were was the Bath's cave, right?
Yeah.
To get out of that, I was like, all right, I'm kind of done now. I'm ready. I hit the little on the Switch. It's the right clicky stick, and I was like, I'm done. Like, let's get out of here. But that one had a portal at the end of it, thankfully, so I didn't even have to go that far.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't just me that was just like, holy shit, dude. Like, I was, especially when I was walking back, I was like, okay, dude, I'm already pissed off, and you're throwing random encounters at me like every 3 seconds.
Yep.
I'm freaking done with this. Like, yeah, that's when my frustration got the better of me. I was sitting there going, you're really tainting something that I was enjoying by this one little issue, and then throwing constant freaking battles at me to the point where I just want to freaking throw something at you.
It's interesting because it is noticeably cranked up versus Final Fantasy 1. It's like every 4 seconds there's another battle. But then in some of those dungeons where you go in the wrong door and you're just in like a one-off room, the guide
as trapdoors.
Trapdoors, exactly. Yeah. The guide refers to like the encounter rate being extremely high in those rooms, but I've never faced an enemy in those rooms.
Is it if you like walk around, which is kind of funny because it's immediately obvious as soon as you go in there that there's nothing to do.
Right.
And so you just turn around and leave. But so I read that same thing, that it was like, oh, okay. I hadn't been having problems with that. I think I also guessed lucky on a couple of doors. It's also a little cheatery, but you can make the map for the dungeon big and like just exactly. It's like, well, okay, they're all tiered, right? I'm on this floor. I need to either go down or go up, depending on whatever the hell you're trying to do. Any door that isn't that, do I need to bother with it? Sometimes there's treasure and stuff like that, but I found that
much in there, really.
No, there isn't much, and I just found that, like, looking at the map, you can tell that this game was designed to be made harder by not having a map, because there's a bunch of like little pathways that just sort of dead end into stuff, and I've just looked at those and been like, yeah, I'm not going that way.
Yep.
Every time I've opened those doors and I've walked in, I got lucky. Most of the time I got lucky and picked the right one the first time, but then I'm like, curiosity got the better of me. I would walk back out and go near the doors just to check to see if there's treasure in them, because I didn't have a map. But I'd walk in, okay, there's nothing here, turn around and walk right back out. Yep. And I think maybe once or twice I actually got stuck in a fight walking out of those empty rooms.
Interesting.
Larry, do you remember from what you were reading, is it supposed to be, is it like a high encounter rate but the same dudes, or is it supposed to be? Okay.
No, it's the same people.
How would we know the difference then between the game's already crazy high encounter rate and something slightly higher?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my point, but then the fact that I've never encountered anyone in there, it's like, wow, the encounter rate is lower in here, because I walk in and I walk right back out, so maybe I walk quickly, but I feel like I would have encountered one enemy in there.
Yeah, I would say maybe one or two of those rooms have triggered a fight.
I'm on a Reddit post here, and so the top comment is, Pixel Remaster was quite pleasant in that trap rooms didn't have an insane encounter rate. So
they
I wonder if they
got it.
But the reply to that is, yeah, but everywhere else still has a very high encounter rate.
Okay, so it literally isn't just us.
Sure.
what we've observed.
Yep, that's so true.
Yeah, when I was walking back to Puff after that whole excursion, I almost, like, that's when I went into the configuration, like, oh, there is the ability to turn off encounters. I almost turned them off because I was so pissed off, but I refrained and made it all the way through. But I was, yeah.
I have a question about that excursion. What were you doing in the airship?
No, it's the Dreadnought, right? You have to get to when you get to Basque, you have to talk to the one knight.
to get him to move. But you talked about using Sid's airship to fly places.
So when you're in Poff,
I know you can, but were you trying to do something?
No. So what ended up happening is I got to Basque, didn't have the Dreadnought keyword. I had airship and I had Wild Rose. Okay. Talked to the dude wouldn't move, so I walked my ass back to Poff where Sid was. Because when I talked to Sid's friend, he gave you multiple options of where you could fly on the airship. Like he literally could take you to any of the cities. So when I got back there to Poft, I had Sid's airship fly me from Poft back to Altair, the very first one.
Instead of taking the boat.
Instead of taking the boat and walking, because I was like, this is going to be faster. Thinking that I could just take the boat from Paloom back to Poff, but the boat stayed in Poff because I didn't use it to go back from Poff to Paloom.
Can you not get the airship? The airship doesn't persist? It takes off and leaves?
Like when I came back out of the city, the airship was gone.
Yeah, that really sucks.
Yeah, man.
So I was just like, fucking sweet, dude. I get to sit here and run my ass back.
That's a really obnoxiously quasi-useful, but not as much as you would want it to be, method of fast travel. You always have to go to the same city, and it can whisk you anywhere you want, but then you're stuck there, and you can't be whisked again. Unless
I hit some sort of bug or some shit like that, which is possible, or because it's so early in the game that they don't expect you to have enough gil to be able to afford to fly that much.
Yeah.
Therefore, that it's making the assumption that you're just going to.
Yeah, maybe that's something that they open up later, that you get some special.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get the airship proper, like we did in the first one, right? So then it just goes away completely. Like this is probably just a basic, like, hey, you're supposed to go from point A to point B. And you're not supposed to go back from B to A. You're just supposed to go there and then proceed down the path that you were going. And I think that's where I got bit in the ass, is that it's like, no, I was already at B. I took it back to A, and then A's like, haha, guess what? You can't go back to B now.
Hope you like walking.
Yeah. Oh, well, whatever. I made it through.
You made it. It's interesting because when we all named our playtime, we were really within like 10 minutes of each other, but yours would have been significantly less with that not happening. Yeah. So
I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I don't know how you would have been that quick. Yeah. You have a sixth sense for JRPGs.
Well, I mean, I don't know how often you guys were, like, again, I was using the magic to one-shot entire groups of stuff, so.
Yeah.
I was definitely not.
I wasn't either, because I was trying to level up my other stuff and hitting myself in the face and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, see, you were grinding, I was not.
Yes, we have switched, and it was meditative for me, man.
I told you.
Yeah, like, this is great.
But you don't like it. That's an important distinction.
It's not that I dislike it or that I enjoy it. It's this weird, like, I don't know. It's like meditation. It really is just like my brain turns off. I go on autopilot, and I'm just kind of in this meditative state where I'm content, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not like I'm getting enjoyment, but I'm not getting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm weird. Let's just go with that.
It's this is the point. I'm really enjoying going back to these old games because I'm discovering some of that stuff. Like, oh, there is something to enjoy from some of these older systems. Yeah. I know it's, gussied up a bit with the pixel remasters. But then on the other hand, another thing I like is, especially for Final Fantasy, like seeing some of the beginnings of the series, the iteration from 1 to 2, like it's quite different, but really enjoyable. I know 2 is the black sheep of the family, it seems like, but I'm liking it so far.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the black sheep just because of the time period. Again, I wonder how much and this is something I don't know the answer to. I'm sure we could look it up. I don't know how much has been changed to make the experience easier to digest in the remasters versus the original version.
Yeah.
They certainly have. I mean, I don't at this point. Like Larry, you and I were saying, if anything, it's been a little easier than the other one. So I don't know how much they, the rough edges they sort of knocked off or whatever. But it's also really interesting that once you kind of put I'm curious about this because the pixel remaster, like the graphics in this one, seem basically the same as the first one. Would you guys agree?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so I think that's really kind of an interesting lens through which to view it, is that when you put these all on the same like graphical playing field, what gives you contrast between them is pretty much exclusively, the mechanics and the gameplay. And I don't know what the original ones looked like, but that's kind of an interesting thing too, that there would have been other distinguishing factors that in some sense are sort of stripped away when we play the remasters here. And what we're probably focusing on more is the games. I didn't tinker with the music or the graphics or anything in this one. I just left it as whatever the defaults were.
I didn't fuck with the graphics. I made sure it was on orchestration, but I think that was default.
Yeah.
I turned everything back to the original.
You're the old school one this time.
Yeah. I think I did it last time too. Yeah, I did last time.
Did you last time too? Okay.
I know I did. So.
I'm modern for both. I like the orchestration better than the chiptune.
Now I really want to see what the old timey graphics look like because I hadn't done that on this one.
Stat growth is based off the Dawn of Souls version. Like, what does that mean? Okay, let's go back. Dawn of Souls.
One of the earlier remasters of this game.
Right. Yeah. So I know. Right. I get that. So now I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean by like what was the stat changes then? Inventory cap 32 has been removed. New portrait. Stages will appear. Blah blah blah. Targeting is now permanent. Characters no longer need to be equipped with an item to consume it. That would suck. Same type of stack. Prices have been reduced in shops. Party now has 10 Okay, well that makes sense. Party now has 10 magic points instead of 5 at the beginning by default. Stat values no longer decrease. Holy shit! There was a way to decrease stat values. That's kind of scary.
Oh wow.
HP values now increase every 10 battles for surviving party members. Okay, so that explains it. Skill growth for weapons and magic have different values when gaining a level instead of being identical, which enables faster growth at the beginning of the game. I would love some more explanation on what that fucking means.
Yeah, can you read that again?
Skill growth for weapons and magic have different values when gaining a level instead of being identical, which enables faster growth in the beginning of the game.
Okay, I don't know about that last piece, but what we read last week at least was that it's, there's a certain range, I suppose, of the increase, so it's more random. But I guess that what you're saying is that it's higher at the beginning and then maybe it levels up. Yeah.
Intelligence and spirit have twice the effect on magic damage and healing. Teleport's accuracy bonus was increased from 0% to 55%. Equipment bonuses now stack with each other. That would have sucked. The equipment bonuses didn't stack previously. Guest party members have been buffed, especially to their magic hit points and magic point values, as well as their unique skills. So that means Mingo was more of a bitch the first time around.
Okay.
Say that one more time. What was wrong with him?
Guest party members have been buffed specifically to their HP and MP values as well as their unique skills.
So
yeah, in the original one they had lower hit points, lower magic points, and less skills and spells. So that means they probably sucked. Let's see. That's what happened in the Dawn of Souls version. Was there anything? Okay, stat growth is big, so we already went over that. HP, MP, stamina, magic stat gains now track total HP and MP lost over the course of the battle rather than tracking the difference between the starting and ending HP. Okay. Wow, that would have sucked. So previously, you gained your HP, MP, stamina, magic, like all that stuff was built off of the starting and end of the battle.
Yeah.
So if you started the battle with 100% H point, lost half of it, healed it all back up to 100% of it, you didn't get any stat bonuses during the battle because the system was like you didn't lose shit.
Oh wow,
But now it takes into consideration the fact that you lost all of it, and then you healed it all back. So then it sits there and says, you will now still have chances of increasing those stats, which previously you did not.
I have one final question here, which is, did you guys go the wrong direction on the overworld at any point?
No.
Yes, I did. I went west.
Yeah. What did you find out there?
Big ass monster. Fucking, it was like an ogre or something. I beat him because I did it later when I had more hit points. But yeah, I found it took me a while to beat it. Ogre.
You can get there like 5 seconds from wherever the initial place is, and you just run into, like, I just ran into these 3 things. They were called, the enemy's name was called Ghost, and they just like mow you down. But it was kind of fun because it was like, well, I can turn encounters off and like explore this area, but I just had to do a quick double check that it's like, okay, I'm not supposed to be going this way. I'm not missing anything over here. They purposefully made these enemies so powerful that like no reasonable person, and it's not even like, oh, if you kind of cheese them a little bit, you can sort of get there or something. The parties that I was running into, it was like, less than 2 rounds, and like all my guys were dead.
Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. Enemies all have set chances to flee rather than using their fear value, which I've noticed some of the enemies did run away.
Yeah.
However, the subnote on this is the fear spell effectively does nothing.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, and I remember you, Larry, said earlier that I'm like using fears on this one. I'm like, well, according to this, that means you have a useless spell.
I remember when we were looking up the fear mechanic when we were playing the first one, and I thought that I remember seeing that somewhere, that something they did, it doesn't exist, I thought, in the Pixel.
Oh, there was a bug when they I think that one was for Final Fantasy 1 was a bug.
The spell was bugged, but they said that after they quote unquote fixed the bug, but I think that's what they said, is that they remove like fear as like a hidden stat of enemies. They removed it. It doesn't work anymore. So the spell being there, I think, is like vestigial.
Okay.
Huh. I might have
what's the point of scaring them away? You don't get any XP, right?
I
mean, I guess insofar as they may have hurt you or you hurt them, but
I don't know, because in some games, I don't know this one in particular, and I've never really used the spell in video games. However, in D&D, which these old school Final Fantasies are based upon for the most part, fear of an enemy and them running away and ending combat is still considered defeating the enemy, and therefore you get experience for that encounter, even though you didn't kill it.
Interesting.
So it's possible that before, fearing them and causing them to flee would have still, since the encounter was over, would still consider a successful combat, and therefore you would get the experience for it. I don't know, but that's, at least in D&D, that's the way the rules work, is anytime you come out ahead, combat's ended if you're alive and the enemy's defeated, and that can be they're restrained, they're dead, or somehow just removed from the combat. You still typically get experience for doing it.
That's charitable.
I mean, the only reason why I know this is because we've, in our tabletop game, we've teleported forcefully or like banished demons back to their source plane. Like, that's still considered, you didn't kill them, they still exist. Still counts.
Yep. I mean, you should. You've scared them away. Why not?
Yeah.
we just had an election cycle here where we've had 3 campaigns, and one of our candidates was so strong that no one wanted to face him, and I counted that as a win. So let's capture that experience when we scare people away.
This is something I just read here that I'm gonna have to try. Characters can attack with 2 shields equipped, which gives them the unarmed attack animation. They can still gain evasion stat boost in addition to unarmed and shield level ups after battle.
I read that somewhere. That's something you want to be doing is having everybody have a shield early on. You
get the evasion skill.
Yeah, you can get the evasion skill up, and then later on, you just double them up with whatever their weapon is, and they're good to go. And they keep the evasion, and they don't need the shield anymore. So
I have a question about the double up the weapon. So, like Furion, you start off with 2 long swords or whatever, and now it's 2 mithril or whatever. But Maria is just one-handed bow. If you put something else in the other hand,
it doesn't work.
Doesn't work. I haven't tried 2 bows. Has anyone tried 2 bows?
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work? Okay.
The bow is a 2-handed weapon, which again is sort of... That's good from an immersion standpoint, right? Like you can't shoot an arrow with a shield on one arm.
Yeah, right.
Not easily, anyways. So yeah, it does. It won't let you put any. It won't let you do shield or other bow or anything. If she's got a bow, that's all she's got.
Yep. Just curious about that.
You do get there's a mithril bow that finally levels out a little bit, like the playing field. Because I think I read somewhere, and again, I'm just sort of taking this game at its word that it's like, hey, there are bows. And for the long bow, I found it late or something, but for a long time, she was doing like, I don't know, 10, 20% of what my other characters were doing in terms of damage. It's like, this is stupid. I'm just going to like commit to some other weapon with her. But it's like, no, I read somewhere that you can pick any weapon you want, and they're all kind of just as good, but you just got to commit to it. So I was like, okay, bows. We'll see how this goes. I think it should. And so then when I got the mithril bow, it was like, okay, this is finally worth it. Now it's much closer to being equal damage output from all the people.
Yeah.
Should we talk about next week?
Yeah. So this week we got all the way through Bafsk, the cave, and then next I think we're headed to the snow. Isn't that right?
I believe you're right.
Yes, the Snowcraft and Snow Cavern is number 4. Kashan Keep is number 5. The Dreadnought is number 6.
That feels like a good
palette.
I'm excited to go to Kashoon. Did you guys talk to that guy? I can't remember where he is, but there's some guy who's like depressed.
Gordon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy's a bummer, man. I keep talking to him like, here's your dead brother's ring. Yep. He's like, I suck. I'll never be good. Like, okay, whatever, dude.
I swear to God, we've done a different game that had the same thing in it. Some guy who was just so depressed, and you're telling them like the dying words of a friend. I thought it was like Final Fantasy Adventure. Maybe it was Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy 12 for all I know. Something I'm either hallucinating and having some sort of deja vu, or it actually happened. I can't tell which.
I will think hard. It's not coming to me immediately, but yeah, that guy's a huge buzzkill.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I actually, I think I wrote about it when that happened. I was like, this is interesting because, you meet Prince Scott, you get the ring. I didn't run into Gordon naturally. I feel like I went out of my way. It wasn't on the critical path. Was I mistaken? Was he actually on the critical path?
If you skipped him, did anything bad happen?
Or is it possible to not talk to him at all? Basically, there.
Yes.
That's why I'm confused about this a little bit. Is because I've got that ring, and he sees that it's his brother's ring, but nothing happens.
Well, he says, "Oh, he said that about me." I'm a loser.
What I mean is that you get a line of dialogue, but it's like that seems weird for them to have given you a key item to unlock a pretty boring piece of flavor text and then nothing else. So I'm hoping that when we go to Kashoon, maybe he does something and he helps you or something like that.
I literally have no idea who you're talking about.
You never met Gordon? Oh, he's great.
No.
He hangs out behind
in your entire life
in Altair. He's behind the main castle thing.
I'm curious if you didn't talk to him, Travis, and you don't, and we move forward, and like Tom was saying, if we see him again and you don't, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I got the
I don't
ring.
know,
I
man.
talked
I
to
think
the.
you should talk to him before you have another incident like this one.
No, like the only person in Altera I've talked to was the princess, and I think the king, the dude that's in the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know that guy's going to die at some point, right?
Oh, yeah,
that guy's dying.
He's, as far as I'm concerned, he's already dead. But yeah,
the unfulfilled love pact between Scott and Hilda, pulling at the heartstrings, man.
Yeah.
Who?
Tell her that I love her. Oh, you know what? Never mind.
Don't. She doesn't need that right now.
Yeah.
She's got enough going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do those next 3 pieces, and of course we'll talk on Discord if they go quick or whatever. But I feel like it's going to be a good chunk. So let's do it and meet again next week. For everyone else, we will see you next week with our podcast. If you like it, please rate us on your podcast service of choice. Tell a friend. Grab all your friends' cell phones and download our podcast in the podcast app. Why not? And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Yes. Yes.